Ed Garvey, the founder of Fighting Bobfest. What the hell is Fighting Bobfest?
It is a party. It's fun. It's exciting. It's inspiring. It brings people together. It gives us hope.
And how is this different from, this is politics, a little bit unusual.
Well, the problem with politics today is everybody's so damn serious because they're all looking for a position that won't offend anyone. We bring people here who will offend everyone.
Thank you so much. Howdy ho, Wisconsin. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What a great joy to be on stage here with my old friends Granny D and Laura Flanders. You're about to hear from Gwen Moore, so many terrific champions of the progressive cause. In fact, it just makes me indeed happier than a worm in compost to be mixing and mingling here with you fighting Bobfesters and Festbobbers, you romping, stomping champions of peace and justice, you bushwhackers and corporate butt kickers, you agitators for America's democratic values. I'm proud to be back here in Baraboo. Thank you for gathering yet again for some Wisconsin brats and brewskis, strategizing and organizing, a little bit of politics and fellowship in our ongoing effort to take our country back from the greedheads and boneheads, the warmongers and fearmongers who are running roughshod over us these days. And it's always great to be with my pal, Ed Garvey, Ed Fighting Bob Garvey, sitting here on his throne. He's uglier than a mud truck, but by God, he does for the heavy hauling. You can count on him for that. But what I really like about Ed is, yes, give Ed a little hand. He needs help. Ed, as many of you know, is of the Irish school of politics. If he sees a fight going on, he walks over and asks, is this a private fight or can anyone join? And thank heaven he does, whether joining with local folks to take on Perrier Inc. or teaming with all of you to renew the Fighting Bob spirit in American politics. He also understands the wisdom of George Bernard Shaw, who about 100 years ago said, you don't make progress by standing on guard, but by attacking and getting well hammered yourself. Now, the fact that Ed used to be 6'5" will give you some idea of some of the scuffles that he has been in. But he also gets the point of that old Yugoslavian proverb, you can fight the gods and still have fun. In fact, battling the bastards and beating Republicans is just about as much fun as you can have with your clothes on. I mean, think about it. And hell, we're at Bobfest, so clothing is optional. Speaking of battling the bastards, let me just note here at the top of my little peroration, a little bit of good news. It's now 16 months, 1 week, 6 days, 9 hours, 26 minutes, and about 43 seconds until George W. is officially dismissed from the White House. But yeah, and of course that timeline assumes that he and his buddy Buckshot Cheney do not get impeached before January 20th, 2009. You know, you don't have to be a card-carrying Bobfester to realize deep down that something's gone terribly wrong in our country, our proud nation, our land of the free. In fact, in my town of Austin, Texas, I saw a bumper sticker on an old beat-up pickup truck. This bumper sticker said, "Where are we going? And what am I doing in this handbasket?" People have a clue, don't they? They know that something's gone wrong. And in fact, 73% of the American people, according to the latest poll, says America is headed in the wrong direction. Now, the reason they're saying that is because it's true. Even George W. knows it. Supposedly in jest in 2002, Bush said, "You can fool some of the people all the time, and those are the ones you want to concentrate on." Well, it's those he can't fool, you, that he fears, that he belittles, that he tries to marginalize and to ignore. But that's the importance of Bobfest. Here, you recognize that you are not alone, in fact, that you're the majority. Here, you get informed and get organized. You learn to speak up, stand up, take charge. You know, they say the first job of a citizen is to keep your mouth open. Well, that's a good thing, but it's always good if that mouth is attached to a brain. And that's what happens here every year, is brains come together to strategize, organize, and mobilize. You know, I referred to you as agitators. The powers that be try to make that a pejorative in our society. Oh, those agitators. Our workers were perfectly happy in that plant until those union agitators came in. The poor people didn't mind living up against that toxic waste dump until those environmental agitators came in. Well, horse hockey and hogwash. Agitation is what built America. We sprang from agitators. We'd all be wearing white powdered wigs and singing "God Hail the King" today, were it not for agitators. And I'm not talking just about the founders. I'm talking about the pamphleteers and the Sons of Liberty, Sojourner Truth and Frederick Douglass, the abolitionists and the suffragists, the populists and the unionists, Mother Jones and Woody Guthrie, Ida Tarbell and Upton Sinclair, Martin Luther King Jr. and Cesar Chavez. And now it's down to you and me to be the agitators again. And when they say to you, "You're just an agitator," you can say right back to them, "That's right. The agitator's that center post in the washing machine that gets the dirt out." We could use a whole lot more of that, couldn't we? Be an agitator. Let me say it to you as plainly as I can. We're now ruled by an outlaw regime, a presidency of autocrats, plutocrats, corporatocrats, theocrats, and kleptocrats. And how do they rule? They rule by fear. By fear. You know, we once had a president, FDR, who said to us in a dark time in our country, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself." He was a strong president. Now we have a weak, even wimpy president who tells us that fear is our future, that fear is patriotic, that fear is America. They even color-code it for us, right? Always in the bright colors of fear, red and orange and yellow. They put it on TV even. I don't know if you've seen this commercial that's running around the country. It has some children looking out from into the camera, worried children staring at you, worried children who ask their parents, "Where should I go if something bad happens, Mommy? What if you can't come to me at school?" The camera zeroes in on a couple of kids who are peering over the back of a minivan. And then a narrator says in one of those deep commercial voices, "Have you talked with your family about what to do in the event of a terrorist attack?" This is a public service announcement from the Homeland Security Department. And then the screen fades to black, and the narrator says, "Be ready." That's George W.'s America. Let's look at Bush's America in terms of his war of lies in Iraq. George likes being the war president, you know, because that means he can use all of the toys and assert all of the power of a military government. In fact, in my Hightower Lowdown, some of y'all are no subscribers of that, and we got copies of it being distributed around here. Thank you. Here's George W. in 2002. "I'm the commander. See, I don't need to explain. I do not need to explain why I say things. That's the interesting thing about being the president. Maybe somebody needs to explain to me why they say something, but I don't feel like I owe anybody any explanation. George W., the commander, he keeps running around the country like a sand flea on steroids, telling us that his invasion and occupation of Iraq is a noble cause. It's essential, he says, to the security of our very own nation. Really? If it is so noble, if it is so essential to the future of our country, where are Jenna and Barbara, the Bush twins, who are primo enlistment age? Why are they not in Daddy's war? And where are the 8 nieces and nephews of George W., also a prime enlistment age? I say, if this war is not worth the Bush's life, it's not worth anybody's life. Franklin Roosevelt had 4 sons. All 4 of them were in the war, and in fact all 4 were decorated for their service in that war. Now we've got, well, George isn't alone, we've got Mitt the Hunter Romney trying to succeed George W. He's got 5 sons. None of them are in the war. Asked about that, Romney said down in Iowa, "One of the ways my sons are showing the support for our nation is to help get me elected." There you go. You just can't make this stuff up, folks. I mean, there it is. He says, "The good news is that we have a volunteer army, and that's the way we're going to keep it. My sons are all adults, and they've made decisions about their careers, and they've chosen not to serve in the active duty. I respect their decisions," says Mitt Romney. And there we have it. They're all for the war as long as their asses are not on the line. You know, and in fact, now we've got Bush's surge, right? 30,000 more Americans in Iraq. Now, actually, I supported this surge, only I thought the best plan would be not to recycle the same people into that war, but instead draft young Republicans. You know, they're sitting on bar stools all across America cheering Bush's war. They say they're for the war, and I say, give it to them. Put them right there in the middle of it. Get their butts off the bar stools and put their boots on the ground in Basra and Baghdad. Let's have a look at it. Now, of course, having lost his war of lies, Bush is trying to keep it going with a fresh pack of lies, packaged up in the Petraeus report. We're going to get that on Monday. Amazingly, the media is going along with this obvious fraud, flim-flam, sham, scam, shame, shell game. The media is all saying, what will the Petraeus report recommend? Well, you know, you never ask a barber if you need a haircut. It's going to recommend stay the course. We're winning. Start with this little reported fact. Petraeus is not writing the report. The White House is writing the report. Isn't that interesting? It's not coming from Baghdad. It's coming from Washington. I'm reminded of the old, wonderful Pete Seeger song, "Waist deep in the big money, and the big fool says to push on." That's what we're facing. Now let's look at Bush's America in terms of the imperial presidency. From their very first day in office, when they declared that presidential records were no longer to be public, through their infamous Patriot Act, Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo, national security letters, torture memos and extraordinary rendition, suspension of habeas corpus, summary arrests of protesters, and their sweeping secret program of domestic spying, King George W. and Prime Minister Cheney have taken a chainsaw to our Constitution and to our Bill of Rights. This is serious, serious business. This is what the founders tried to write into the Constitution and the Bill of Rights that could not happen. Yet the Bushites are deliberately and determinedly working to impose the anti-America on our land of the free, an unrecognizable America of supreme executive authority, constant surveillance of the people, secret government, suppression of dissent, and permanent war. Again, let's turn to the commander himself in 2004. George W. said, "Our enemies are innovative and resourceful, and so are we. They never stop thinking about new ways to harm our country, and neither do we." He's not the quickest bunny in the litter, is he? Well, again, in the supreme executive, their chief weapon is fear, waving the bloody flag of 9/11. They say, "Surrender your liberties or be attacked again by the madmen." Don't question authority. That just encourages the madmen. We must close government in a dark veil of secrecy to keep the madmen from knowing what we're doing. Police power must be drastically expanded to protect you from the madmen. I don't know if you know it or not, but there's a monstrous fish in our country these days. It's been found in several ponds and lakes in our country. It's called the Chinese snakehead. It's about 3 feet long, has a huge mouth, a grotesque predator from hell. It enters into a pond, devours nearly every fish, frog, tadpole, minnow, turtle, every other living thing in that pond. Then it's able to crawl across land, outside of water, for as much as a mile, slithering into the next pond to devour all life there. I think that the Bushites are the Chinese snakeheads of America's civil liberties. They're devouring them, and we've got to deal with it. Now, here's my message, and I'm sure you were wondering what that might be. Something important for you and I to remember. Our problem is no longer George W. Bush. He is who he is, a bonehead. You might as well try to teach a pig to sing as to try to impose any sort of reality on Bush's delusions. In fact, I don't know, did you see, this week he was in Australia, and he was speaking to the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia, and he said to him, "We're kicking ass in Iraq." I mean, if ignorance is bliss, this guy's ecstatic. Forget him. Our target, instead, has got to be the weaselly, wimpy, wussy congressional Democrats who are so cowed by Bush that they're not standing up. Now, when my party, I'm proud to be a Democrat, won control of Congress last fall, I have to admit I had mixed emotions. You know, they say mixed emotions is when you see your 16-year-old daughter come home from the prom with a Gideon Bible under her arm. So, I had mixed emotions. On the one hand, there in the Congress is a strong and good core of solid progressive Democrats like Gwen Moore, Tammy Baldwin, and Russ Feingold from right here in Wisconsin. But on the other hand, they're up against too many scaredy cat Democrats. And we've got to bolster our strong supporters in there. We've got to add to their number, and we've got to pour a little bit of Elmer's glue in the backbones of some of those scaredy cats who are routinely spooked every time Bush says boo. When he rips out yet another piece of our Constitution, these Democrats cluck their tongues and wag their fingers. But then they very quickly cave in, legalizing whatever illegality he has. In fact, a guy sent me an email and said, I really wish Bush would get caught smoking pot. Then the Democrats would legalize pot. What we have to remind our Democrats who are wobbly is that Bush is not a supreme commander. The framers of the Constitution made certain of that. Congress has the power to declare war, to set war policy, to control spending, to investigate executive arrogance, and to withdraw troops. Congress has that power. Yet the leaders had backed up so much that they ought to have, I think, one of those beep, beep, beep reverse signals that you find on heavy machinery. Even though we the people have said as loudly and clearly as we can, bring the troops home, the Democratic leaders have already signaled surrender to Bush on the Petraeus report, saying that, okay, we'll do away with any withdrawal timetable. You know, the opposite of courage is not cowardice. The opposite of courage is conformity, just going along. Even a dead fish can go with the flow, right? We need some live fish in there to help win more, to help Tammy Baldwin, to help Russ Feingold and the other stalwarts. That's our job. And that's where you come in. Too many progressives are even saying, well, I just give up. You know, we elected some Democrats last time and still we can't win. We can't make a difference. Well, nonsense. We are winning. We haven't won yet, but you never win the first time out. That's not the way progressive politics works. Look at the civil rights movement. Look at the suffrage movement. Look at the environmental movement. Look at the anti-war movement in the Vietnam period. You don't win the first time out, but you make gains, and that's what we're doing. We're making tremendous progress. We've got the bastards on the run, and we've got the American people on our side. That's important to realize. Did something rather rude in a new book that I've written. Reported some polling data that the establishment obtains but does not report to us. And what you find in that polling data is that on the war, on civil liberties, on the economy, on the environment, the American people are not mealy-mouthed centrists. They're clearly progressives. Look at some of these numbers. 77% want the United States out of Iraq. 66% want the government to guarantee health care for everyone. 87% want the federal government to negotiate with drug companies to lower the price of prescriptions. 69% want government to guarantee food and shelter for all Americans. 76% believe there is too much power concentrated in the hands of a few corporations. 65% say corporations are making too much profit and putting profits over the public interest. 83% want stricter regulations to protect the environment, and 69% more emphasis on fuel conservation than drilling for oil. And 83% want, 68% say that labor unions are necessary to protect working people. 74% are concerned that corporations are getting too much personal information from us. That's more than a two-thirds majority on just about any issue that you and I care about. We don't have to fear the people. We've got to get with the people and begin to organize them and rally them. And that's what comes out of something like Bobfest, out of your breakout sessions and your movement into the people's legislature. But you don't have to just look at polls. Look at what happened last year in the election. The common sense majority stood up and they said the emperor has no clothes. And not only is he buck naked, he's butt ugly. Not only did we elect Democrats, but we elected a bunch of little d Democrats as well, real progressive populists, like Sherrod Brown to the Senate over here in Ohio, Amy Klobuchar in your neighboring state of Minnesota, John Tester out in Montana, Bernie Sanders in Vermont, Claire McCaskill down in Missouri. And plus, we got rid of some real knuckleheads, didn't we? I mean, Rick Santorum, that goofball from Pennsylvania. I tell you, if he got any goosier, he'd fly south every winter. And even in Texas, we turned Tom DeLay's face red because we turned his district blue. Democrat sitting in Tom DeLay's district down in Texas. State elections won 6 governorships. As Mark was indicating, 9 legislative bodies, including your state Senate here, and just 3 votes short of winning in the House. We'll pick that up next time with your good support and Mark's leadership. We won initiatives. 6 states had an increase in the minimum wage on their ballot. All 6 passed, usually with about a 75% majority. We're making progress. We're making gains. And here's the big news. You did this. You made these gains, not the Democratic Party, not the big money boys, Schumer and Rahm Emanuel and those people, not the media. You did it. Grassroots groups, just like you, coming out of fighting Bobfest. All kinds of groups. We got the League of Women Voters over here I saw earlier in this great assembly of grassroots organizations. The League of Conservation Voters. We've got a good League of Rural Voters here. The League of Pissed Off Voters. That's one of my favorite ones. They're really doing some good work. My point here is that it's up to us. We can have the kind of America that we want. An America that's based on those values of fairness, justice, equal opportunity for all people. Or we'll have the kind of America that they want. An America of kleptocracy, war, and autocracy. It's not a question of Bush. It's a question of you and me. What will we do between now and 2008? What will we do after 2008? You have to keep building for the long haul. You've got to be the leaders. Bush says, I'm the decider. Well, no, he's not. Neither are the Democrats. You're the decider. And you've got to put yourself forward. Again, I think we're in a big time in America. I saw a button. I was up in Vermont not long ago. A guy came up wearing a political button. Best one I've ever seen. It said, wearing a button is not enough. We can't be a nation of button wearers. I believe that we're in another of those when in the course of human events moments that Thomas Jefferson wrote about. It's a big time in America. They're stealing our country from us. They're stealing the very concept of our nation from us. Sam Adams, the man, not the beer, founder of the Sons of Liberty, the organizer of the Boston Tea Party, Sam Adams said, if ever a time should come when vain and aspiring men shall possess the highest seats of government, our country will stand in need of its experienced patriots to prevent its ruin. That's you and me, and that time is now. I will leave you with this thought. I'll leave you with this thought. It's from my old Aunt Eula. My Aunt Eula was a farmer up in northeast Texas. And back in the early 1950s, they had finally gotten electricity to come into that part of our state, thanks to the New Deal, the Rural Electrification Administration. Electricity came in, and that meant that they could put an electric pump in the creek and pump water into their house, the first time that they ever had water in the house. And then one day they were having a problem with it, though, and I happened to be there. I was just a little boy. And the men were looking at the water faucet in the house, and it was all murky, the water coming out. And the men were scratching their butts and saying, well, I don't know, what do you think, And my Aunt Eula turned to me and she said, Jim, the water won't ever clear up till we get the hogs out of the creek. Now, right there's our problem, isn't it? The hogs are in the creek. We got to get them out of the creek. Thanks for what you're doing. Push those hogs. Thank you, Bobfest. Thank you, Wisconsin. Proud to be back with you.
Thank you. Bless you all. Agitate, agitate, agitate.